Hello students, today our topic is transformations again, but now we're going to learn about translations. I know those two words are very similar because they both start with trans, but they are indeed two different things. So let's get started. If I could find my next open notebook page, there we go. All right, so a translation is a vertical and or horizontal slide of a figure. So that quite literally means you just take your figure and you move it somewhere else. That's all there is to a translation. It's a very simple idea. Just take it, move it somewhere else. There you go, you translated it. And so our rule or our symbolic form for it is pretty basic as well. I don't know why I'm having a hard time speaking. So anytime we are moving a figure on a coordinate plane, it's going to, again, either have a horizontal, vertical, or maybe horizontal and vertical if it's going in a diagonal path. So as such, we want to figure out, okay, how much did it move to the side and how much did it move up or down? So if you start with point X, Y, and you map it onto a point I'll use this color, X plus H, comma, Y plus K. So these H and Ks represent that horizontal and vertical displacement or change. So H is the horizontal change, how much it moves to the left and the right. And K is your vertical change. How much did it move up or down? So when we take a look at a translation, we start out with some polygon. I'm going to call this A, B, C, D. If I were to move it over here, giving me A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime, there's going to be an up and down to it because A started up higher and ended up lower. So there's a horizontal and a vertical change happening. So this would be your K. And then counting all the way across you would have your H. And I'm just going to fill in a little more info. And there we have a pretty good idea of how a translation works. So the rule is very easy to use. Just like yesterday when our rule was just to make something positive or negative to change the sign, in this, we're just adding or sometimes subtracting a number. So if you made it past like the second grade, I think you'll get this one. So let's do an example or two. So maybe we have rectangle QRST, where Q is -6, -1. R is -3, +1. S is 1, -5. And T is -2, -7. And this rectangle is being translated by the rule XY maps to X plus 5, Y plus 7. So that +5 is a horizontal change in the positive direction. So that means you're moving up the number line or to the right. Y is changing in the positive direction as well, which means you're moving up. So we have 5 right and 7 up. And I just want to point that out. So right 5, up 7. Just so if you were looking at a picture of it, perhaps like the one on the printed notes that I have, you would see that it's moving up and to the right. And so you have a positive change on both. In order to calculate this, all you have to do is add that 5 and that 7 to each number. So -6 plus 5, -1 plus 7. And again, you're just going to do that to each one. -3 plus 5, 1 plus 7. Because that's what the rule tells us to do. Add 5 to the X, add 7 to the Y. 1 plus 5, -5 plus 7. And lastly, -2 plus 5, -7 plus 7. And of course, we want to simplify this and just figure out what those numbers are. So you just have a lot of little addition going on here. And again, if you struggle with adding and subtracting signed numbers like these, just use a calculator. -6 plus 5, type it in. In this case, we have -1, +6. Here, -5 or -3 plus 5 makes a +2. 1 plus 7 is 8. 1 plus 5 is 6. -5 plus 7 is 2. And -2 plus 5 is 3. -7 plus 7 is 0. And there we have our new points, Q prime, R prime, S prime, and T prime. And let's take a look at one more example for our notebook with things going in the negative direction. Now, they can be any mix of right, left, up, down. It doesn't always have to be right and up, down and left. Just know that it can be any mix, but obviously doing all the examples in the notebook would be a lot. So we're going to do square W, X, Y, Z, where W is 1, 7. X is 6, 5. Y is 4, 0. And Z is -1, 2. Our rule for this one will be xy maps to x minus 7, y minus 6. So if positive was to the right, negative is to the left. So we're going to the left 7. And again, if positive is going up, negative is going down. So down 6. I'm going to do the same thing. So we're doing 1 minus 7 here, 7 minus 6 here. 6 minus 7, 5 minus 6, 4 minus 7, 0 minus 6, and -1 minus 7, 2 minus 6. This is a good intermediate step to really make sure that you're doing your work correctly. But of course, it isn't absolutely necessary to always, always, always write this out. If you can do it one by one in your calculator, then you don't necessarily need to write this step out. But I just want to show you what's happening at each step. All right, so now I'm just going to go through and subtract. 1 minus 7 is -6. 7 minus 6 is a +1. 6 minus 7 is a -1, and 5 minus 6 is a -1. 4 minus 7 is -3. 0 minus 6 is -6. And lastly, -1 minus 8 more is -8, and 2 minus 6 is -4. So today is just a whole lot of adding and subtracting, my friends. Adding and subtracting. Nothing you can't handle without a calculator. Real quick, I want to show you some things on the other version of the notes that I have. So on this version, there's 4 different examples I go through. And you can see how each shape slid. But also, sometimes you're going to have problems where they give you a picture and you have to write the rule describing the translation. Here's where it becomes super important to be able to recognize your pre-image and your image. Remember that your pre-image is going to be the one without any extra markings on it. The image is going to have those markings telling you that point D has been changed in this one. Point E has changed and F has changed. That's what those markings mean. So that's when you can look at your graph and count. Okay, how many am I going left or right? Okay, I'm going right 7, and I'm going up 4. So right 7, that's adding 7 to the number, and up 4 is adding 4 to the number, giving you x plus 7, y plus 4. So take a look at those and see what's going on there as well. Now for today, your work is in CK12 again. Now it's been a moment since we've used CK12, but I wanted to use it for some of these transformations because they are very heavy on the pictures, and it's a lot for me to build in Schoology. So I want to remind you guys how you go about doing those assignments, especially if you're new. Then you haven't done CK12 yet. All right, so in your course, in today's folder, I mean, right now this is the only thing that's in there, but I will update that. You want to click on the practice, and that will open up a special little window inside of Schoology. So you should be getting something like this. It'll load in, and then yours will look a little bit different here, so maybe I should impersonate somebody to show you what it'll look like for you. All right. I forgot about that. So again, you're going to click on the practice. It's going to load for a minute. A long little bit. And then you're going to see this. It'll tell you about how long it'll take you to complete 10 questions. If you scroll down, it'll show you a reading, a video, and an interactive activity, as well as some other things, other videos, and so on. These will help you if you're still not really 100% certain of the topic and you want to see a little bit more about it. But if you're ready, you can hit start practicing. And it'll bring you through this. So you want to start by getting 10 questions right. That's all you have to get. And you can continue practicing as you like, but once you get 10 questions, that'll be 100. The questions will get harder or easier based on how well you're doing. So if you get to a question that's simply too hard and you get it wrong, it'll give you an easier one and try and work your way back up. And there's hints as well. So when you're ready, you can hit start practicing and it'll give you questions. You can go through and answer. And again, if you need a hint, this guy over here will help you out. Now, a big thing with CK12 is a lot of students will have a hard time getting into the program. So if you're getting an error about cookies, I want you to go to Google and search how to enable cookies. And if you're using Google Chrome, go on Chrome. If you're using Firefox, Firefox. Safari, type Safari. And that will give you instructions about how to enable them. All they are is they're like little packets of extra data that it wants you to use to be able to give you the full experience using CK12. Without it, you can't get that full experience going on. But anyway, once you're done, you can submit your practice and turn in your score. So obviously I wouldn't want to hit turn in for this student, it would give them a 0. But once you finish practicing, you get your 10 questions right, you can turn it in and get your 100. One reason CK12 is nice is no matter how many questions you get wrong, you can still get 100 if you get at least 10 right. You can get a 90 for getting at least 9 right. So it's a way for you to really raise your grade and get some extra points even if you're making mistakes along the way, which I really appreciate. So again, don't forget to hit the turn in button once you finish practicing. That way it'll be entered into the gradebook. All right, and I know I've been getting a lot of questions recently about attendance, and I want to let you guys know that I'm working on it. Just let me know if you're counted absent for a day and I'll take a look at it. But just know that these things are largely outside of my control, unfortunately. So all I can really do is go back and fix it. Okay, that's all I have for today. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend and enjoy your time off for a few days. And I'll see you again on Monday.